Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to learn how to make this beautiful cardigan. Everything I have used and how much I have used will be linked in the description down below and in the first comment. One back panel. The back panel is going to start with the ridge, of course, and then the horizontal lines and until we hit under the armpit. Then two sleeves will be attached. It's very simple and let's get started. Then I added this for the edge. On the edge, I added it after I connected the three pieces together, but it's better if you add it before we connect the cardigan together. So I'm starting with a needle using a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook to make the first knot. Then we are going to make a chain and we are going to make 13 chains. Now skip the first chain and insert your hook into the second chain, making a single crochet stitch. We are going to be putting one single crochet stitch into each chain, which is going to be, we are going to be ending with 12 single crochet stitches. This is the last chain, the last stitch. And to start the next row, we are going to chain one, flip over our work, and insert your hook into the first single crochet. We are going to insert our hook in the back loop of the stitch of the chain. This is very important to create this ridge we are trying to make. So insert your hook into the back loop of the chain, putting one single crochet stitch into each chain. Ending with 12 single crochet stitch into each row. To start the next row, chain one, flip over your work, and continue what we are doing, inserting your hook into the back loop of the chain, putting one single crochet stitch into each chain. This size is large, and for this large size I have made 49 rows. So here you go, 49 rows. You can see this ridge we are talking about. And to start the front panel, the horizontal lines, we are going to chain one, insert one single crochet stitch into each chain. The stitches here are quite not the best to see. I am kind of eyeballing them, but you know, it's forgiving if you forget one stitch or two, but you can end up with 49 single crochet stitch. I'm going to continue like this until the end of the row. So here I am at the end of the row, And to start, this is the last single crochet stitch. To start the next row, the stitch we are making, we are going to chain one, flip over your work, and insert your hook into the first chain, putting one single crochet stitch. Then you're going to chain one, skip the next chain, and insert your hook into chain number 3, putting one single crochet stitch. Stitch 1, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and insert your hook into the next stitch, putting one single crochet stitch, chain 1, skip the stitch, putting the one single crochet stitch into the next stitch. We are going to continue like this, inserting one single crochet stitch, then chain 1, so to start on your next row, you are going to chain 1, flip over your work, and you are going to insert your hook into the first chain, placing one single crochet stitch into this chain. Then you are going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and insert your hook into stitch number 3, placing one single crochet stitch, then chain 1, then skip the next stitch, placing your hook into the very next stitch, and placing one single crochet stitch. So we are going to be placing one single crochet stitch, chain 1, skip the next stitch, then place one single crochet stitch, then chain 1, placing one single crochet stitch into the next stitch, and so on. We are going to continue like this until the end of the row. Here I have made 79 rows. Going to continue like this until it hits the length that you want, until it hits your armpit, under your arm, and this is the length you want. You are going to start chaining 89 chain for your arm. So here I have chained 89 stitch for your arm. We are going to continue what we were doing, but this time we are going to include the arm with the front panel. So flip your work and placing one single crochet stitch into the first stitch, into the first chain, then chain 1, skip the next stitch, placing one single crochet stitch into chain number 3, chain 1, skip the very next stitch, placing your hook into the third stitch, chain 1, and so on until you reach to the front panel. So here I have reached the front panel, exactly under the armpit. We are going to chain 1. Make sure you place one single crochet stitch into the first chain, even though if it's not its turn. Here it's not the turn, but I'm going to chain 1 anyway, and then I'm going to place one single crochet stitch into this chain, into the first chain, chain 1, place one single crochet stitch, chain 1, skip the stitch, chain into the next one, and we are going to continue like what we were doing, placing one single crochet stitch, chain one, skip the very next stitch, and place one single crochet stitch into the next one, and so on. We are going to continue like this until the end of the row. So here I am at the end of the row, and to start your next row we are going to chain one, flip over your work, placing one single crochet stitch, then chain one, skip the next stitch, placing one single crochet stitch into the next one, and continue like what we were doing. The only difference here is that we are going to include the arm with our work with the front panel. I'm going to continue like this. I have made 46 chain, so in total there is 125 chain, 125 rows. I have made 2 front panels. To start on here, to start your back panel, we are going to do exactly what we have done. Chain 13 to start your ridge. We are going to do exactly what we have done before, placing one single crochet stitch into each chain. So we are going to end up with 12 single crochet stitches. To start your next row, chain one, flip over your work, placing one single crochet stitch into each chain. We are placing in the back loop of the chain. We are going to continue like this until the end of the row. To start your next row, chain one, flip over your work, placing one single crochet stitch in the back loop of each chain. We are going to continue like this. I have made 117 rows. So here 117 rows for the ridge, for the back panel. And now we are going to start making the back panel. We are just going to make what we have done in the front panel, exactly what we have done in the front panel. For the first row, we are going to place one single crochet stitch into each chain. Now for the next row, we are going to chain one, flip over your work, placing one single crochet stitch into the first chain. Chain one, skip the next stitch, placing your hook into chain number 3, placing one single crochet stitch, chain one, skip the very next chain, and we are just doing what we have done in the front panel. We are going to continue like this for more 79 rows, like I said, until you hit the length you want for your cardigan, until you hit the length for your armpit before attaching the sleeves. So here I have made 79 rows exactly until I reach the armpit, and now we are going to attach the chain, making 89 stitches. Now flip over your work, and we are going to be doing exactly what we have done in the front panel until we reach to the back panel. Chain one single crochet stitch, chain one, skip the next chain, placing one single crochet stitch into the chain number 3. Here I am at the back panel. We are going to continue like we have done, placing one single crochet stitch, chain one, skip the next stitch, placing one single crochet stitch, and so on. The only difference here from the back panel is we are going to attach the 2 sleeves. So I am going to meet you at the end of this row. Here I am at the end of this row, and I'm going to make a chain for the second sleeve, so making 89 stitches. So here the second 89 stitches, flip your work and do exactly what you have done for the front panel. The only difference here is there is 2 sleeves, and now I know there is going to be an extra row in one of the sleeves, but it doesn't matter, it's not going to show, and you're not going to feel any difference. It's going to be exactly the same. So I'm going to continue like this, like what we are doing. The only exception here is that we are going to include the 2 sleeves together, to include the 2 sleeves with our work, going back and forth, making an extra 46 rows, ending with in total the back panel 125 rows. So here are the 2 front panel and the back panel, and we are going to stitch all 3 together. So to start stitching, place the back panel, then placing your front panel on the exact stitches. Make sure stitch number 1 is with the first stitch is facing the first stitch, the second stitch is facing the second stitch on both panels, the front and the back. Here are the sleeves. I'm going to start stitching from the sleeves from the top and placing your hook into the first chain, the first stitch from the front panel, facing the first stitch from the back panel. I am placing one single crochet stitch into each chain. Actually, I am placing one single crochet stitch into I'm skipping a chain and I'm chaining one stitch and skip the next, chain one stitch and skip the next, because I want it to be more softer and more comfortable, but you can stitch each stitch if you want. Here I am stitching one stitch, one chain, then skipping the next. continue like this until stitching the top. Then I'm going to stitch the bottom, reaching to the armpit, and then continuing until I reach the ridge. I stitch it until the end, but you can leave few stitches if you want. You can leave few stitches open if you want. So I realized I needed to make the edges a little bit nicer, so I have made this cable to stitch, but unfortunately I ran out of yarn as usual. But I will link the video on how to make this cable stitch if you want, but I didn't end up with this cable. I'm very sad about that, but I ran out of yarn to make two cables, so instead I have made a smaller ridge, just like we have made on the bottom of the cardigan. So if you want to make the cable, I will leave the link in the description box and in the little eye above. But if you want to continue like what I'm going to do, so just keep on watching. Facing the front panel and making my first knot, placing my hook into the first chain of the front panel. I'm going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So we are going to skip the first stitch, placing your hook into the second stitch, making one single crochet stitch into each chain. So we are going to end up with 4 single crochet stitches. This is the last chain. To attach the chain with the front panel, we are going to make one slip stitch, then another slip stitch for the next row we are going to make. So 2 slip stitches in total. Now flip your work and skip the first 2 stitches, the 2 slip stitches, placing your hook in the back loop of the first single crochet stitch, placing one single crochet stitch. Place your hook in the back loop of the chain, placing one single crochet stitches. So you are going to end up with 4 single crochet stitches in total. To your next row, chain 1, flip over your work and place one single crochet stitch into each chain in the back loop of the stitch of the chain or the stitch. I'm not sure anymore. So you are going to end up with 4 single crochet stitches. Now to attach the chain with the front panel, we are going to be making 2 slip stitches. The first slip stitch to attach the row, and the second slip stitch for the new row we are going to be making. Skip the first 2 stitches, skip the 2 slip stitches, placing your hook in the back loop of the first chain, placing one single crochet stitch into each chain. We are going to continue like this until the end, until the bottom of the cardigan. So here is the final result. and a close up to this small ridge. It's not necessarily, it's just beautiful, pretty, make it a little bit nicer and a little bit more clean. So wanted to make the sleeve a little bit nicer and cleaner. Place your hook and chain one, then placing one single crochet stitch along the sleeve, one single crochet stitch into each chain. Placing one single crochet stitch into each chain. I'm going to continue like this until the end of the row. So here I am at the end of the row, and to finish your first row we are going to attach them together with a slip stitch. Place your hook into the first single crochet you have made, making a slip stitch, and you can end here, but I actually ended up doing 2 more rows. So chain 1, placing your hook in the back loop of the chain, placing one single crochet stitch into each chain. You can do as many rows as you like, but I ended up with 2 more, so 3 in total. That's pretty much it. I hope you like it, and I will see you in the next video.